Usually, there's a hero and villain, and if the hero beats the villain on their game world, well...
Kaboom! You've all just been puppets in a bigger picture.
You know, there's something odd about Glitch's newest pilot, Gameoverse. If you somehow don't know, Gameoverse is a 2D indie anime pilot created by Robert Ross or Ross O'Donovan under the YouTube channel Glitch Productions, who you might know for some of their other shows like Murder Drones or The Amazing Digital Circus. It takes place in, you guessed it, the Gameoverse, a multiverse of video games referred to as game worlds. And there's one simple but kinda dark rule of this multiverse. If the hero wins the game, the world explodes. We see this happen twice in the pilot, 3 times if you count the trailer, which is canon. And from a storytelling perspective, it's a cool concept, with the main character, Kit, having to side with the villains of these worlds in order to save them. Sure, evil wins and rules over the world at the end of the day, but there's still a world. It makes Kit a very sympathetic character, who was just trying to do what she thought was right but ended up doing more harm than her villain ever could have. It's such an interesting concept that instantly got me hooked. There's so many different directions and ways this concept could go. But, with all that said, why does the Gameoverse work like this? Like, yeah, as I said, it makes for a more compelling narrative, but for a show that's clearly made with a lot of love and passion for video games, this rule just isn't how games generally work. In a video game, when you win or lose, you don't just never play the game again. Unless you're pathetic. You start a new save file and play again. Some games have post-game content that gives you stuff to do after the main story is over. I've never heard of a game that after you beat the final boss just deletes itself. Imagine if every game was like that. You'd have to buy a new copy every time you want to replay it. That'd be such a scam. Nintendo, don't get any ideas. This was the first thing that jumped out to my brother on our first watch, and my assumption was that this isn't like Wreck-It Ralph, where there's a player controlling the game characters. There's nothing else that exists beyond the Gameoverse. But even then, why would the Gameoverse be built to be this never-ending destructive cycle? Why punish people for doing what's right? Maybe I'm just being naive and believing that the universe isn't out to get us, but it just doesn't add up to me. So I decided to look into it. And the more I did, the more the puzzle pieces started to fit into place. And I believe I may have solved the possible twist reveal of this show before it was even greenlit. Sounds too good to be true? Well, get ready, cause this is Controller Theory.
That you will be fed, and then there will be tape.
So before we start theorizing, we have to lay down what it is we know about how the Gameoverse works. Of course, there's the win condition rule.
Usually, there's a hero and villain, and if the hero beats the villain on their game world, well...
Kaboom! Hero wins, you lose.
But there's more to it than just that. For one, you can't tell game characters about the Gameoverse unless they already know. If you do, then...
If you beat Snappers and win the game, this whole world is going to explode!
The game characters get frozen in place by some kind of static, and the planet starts searching for them with these giant red laser thingies. And finally, the game characters outside the game world can't harm the characters inside it unless the win condition is met.
Ow! Yeah, hide behind your stupid game system lock.
Good job, idiot!
All these rules seem to support one another, making it seem that the world itself wants the game to be completed. Hence why game characters from outside the world can't tell them or intervene, at least too much. And honestly, there aren't any real contradictions about this system. It all seems to make sense, and I probably wouldn't have even made this theory if I hadn't noticed an interesting pattern. You probably never thought about this before, but isn't it convenient that in every instance that a game world was destroyed, a character not from that world was present when it happened? In the pilot's trailer, we know that Kit, Caboodle, and this one syntax robot were in the game when Couples completed it and the world was destroyed. We also know that members from both Farcade and Syntax were present when Flappers' world was destroyed. And while it's not directly stated that anyone not from Kit's world was there when it blew up, it's speculated that Fold could have been. In Kit's flashback at the beginning of the pilot, we see her using a paper cheat sheet, which is exactly what Fold was pretending to be for Flappers. And considering Kit recognized Fold even when he just looked like a blank piece of paper and tried to take him from Flappers, implies that they at least have a history together. And to further prove this, Fold even recognizes Kit and refers to her by name, and also knows that her and Caboodle are stronger together. And one of the things on the cheat sheet in the beginning of the pilot was Kit plus Caboodle equals super attack, which is the only reason they managed to defeat Malice and Mayhem. Oh yeah, those are the names of the villains from Kit's homeworld. I hope we get to see more of them, they're fun. And as a cherry on top, Misinformation doesn't seem to know who Kit and Caboodle are, so it's not like everyone from Syntax knows who Kit and Caboodle are.
Ugh, what are you doing? We can't rush them, that's Kit!
The fat dinosaur.
You're nothing without your little backpack friend, aren't you? The backpack! You didn't tell me the backpack was the one training snappers!
He's a backpack?
Oh, yeah, and Sephiroth might have been there too. So what if completing the win condition isn't what causes game worlds to explode? What if it's because characters not from the game world were present when the win condition was completed, and that is what causes the world to delete itself? Now you're probably thinking, okay, but why would it do that? Why does it care? Well, think about it. What are video games made of? Code. In the Gameoverse, everything is made of this red glitchy stuff that the syntax call float.
If the planet finds us, we'll all be float!
If we get hit even once without shields, we're float!
Well, no matter. We can harvest the planet's float without any interference.
Which is actually an abbreviation of an actual programming term called floating code, a data type used for precise calculations like for simulated graphics and such. You see, a program is like an enormous clock. It only works if all the little cogs mesh together. Even if one part of a program doesn't follow the same coding language, it won't be compatible and thus cause an error. This is why you can't just take code from Sonic Frontiers and plop it into the first Super Mario Bros. And expect to go off that hitch. They are literally two completely different coding languages. You're going to break the game. With this in mind, those other rules aren't trying to cause the world to be destroyed. They're trying to prevent it. Heck, those lasers scanning the planet looking for them kind of feel like a firewall or an antivirus program. And even the game characters not knowing about the Gameoverse could be a safeguard to ensure that they don't go to other game worlds or invite other game characters to their world, thus destroying either of them. So if this is all true, then the game worlds aren't trying to destroy themselves, they're actively trying to save themselves. And the presence of Farcade and or syntax is what causes the worlds to explode. See, I told you the universe wasn't out to get us! You know, in retrospect, this makes a whole lot more sense, considering that a lot of games and computers are built with these types of firewall or antivirus softwares to protect themselves. Think of those anti-piracy screens that Nintendo used to do. So that's it! Yay, we did it! We solved the Gameoverse! Yahoo! Honestly, I got this idea from Across the Spider-Verse, with the whole canned events that every Spider-Man has to go through every time, and since Miles changed the story and saved the captain, Pov's dimension is dying or whatever, you know? I even almost called this video the Across the Gameoverse theory, believe it or not. And I was going to just end it here, but I have to address this theory's one glaring flaw. How did this all start?
Please deposit 5 coins.
Please deposit 5 coins.
From what we know, Warwick and Dusk, you know, the Sephiroth guy and the Doom guy, are the leaders of Farcade and Syntax respectively. And it's been speculated that they were the hero and villain of the first ever game world to be destroyed. And it feels like a logical assumption. It's also kind of cool if Warwick was the hero, which is why I jokingly refer to him as Doom Guy. Having a hero be so haunted by destroying the world they worked so hard to save and thus be willing to do anything to bring it back, even if it comes at the cost of destroying other worlds. Don't ask how that works, I don't know. And while I jokingly refer to Dusk as Sephiroth, he also resembles Alucard, who is a protagonist? An anti-hero? I don't know, I've never played Castlevania. I only know so much about him from Richter's Paluta's guidance in Smash Ultimate. Please don't come at me, Castlevania fans! But if he's anything like them, then he probably wouldn't stay a villain after his world was destroyed. Also, it fits the premise of the show. Either you die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. And while this is all speculation, considering they were the first, it kind of disproves my theory. In order for this to work, there would have to have been game characters who knew about the Gameoverse before Farcade and Syntax ever existed. And while it's not impossible, there's literally no evidence to prove it. Well, I guess this is just a pilot, and the creator has been actively withholding lore-related information when answering fan questions, since it'll probably be explained later in the show. Plus, this whole Warwick and Dusk thing is mostly just speculation, so this could be disproven later. Well, dang, I guess that's it. You know, I was kind of hoping that there would be this smoking gun piece of evidence that I could have used for the aha moment, but I guess I'm not Alex. Guess I was wrong. Theory debunked. Turns out the Gameoverse is a cruel and unforgiving mistress. Well, at least I tried. Not bad for my first attempt at a theory. Even if it's not as sound as it could have been, I'm still proud of what I tried to accomplish. So that's Controller Theory, everyone. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next.
The title screen!
That has to be the name of the world's hero.
Probably didn't even see it before they jumped in.
Idiots.
The title screen! The title screen! The title screen!
Wait. There's a title screen? Why would there be a title screen? If the game world doesn't want the characters to know they're in a game, then why would there be a big title screen that's visible to anyone? Like, yeah, it's above the water, but the main character the game is named after is an aquatic mammal that's known for jumping out of the water for oxygen. And even then, why would there be a title screen in a video game multiverse without a... And my assumption was that this isn't like Wreck-It Ralph, where there's a player controlling the game characters. Hang on, is there a player?
Player 1, get ready.
Well, there's theoretically a player. Guess we're back in business, baby! So you're probably wondering, how does a player affect our theory? After all, the heroes don't seem to be controlled by a player, so how does this change anything? Well, maybe it doesn't really affect anything in the pilot, but it could explain the one issue with my theory, how this all started. In order for Dusk and Warwick's world to have been destroyed, there would have had to have been another game character not from their world present when it happened. But what if the player hacked the game in order to win? Picture this, if you will. Dusk and Warwick's world is a sort of Dark Souls-like game, a well-known, extremely difficult game that I could totally see these two being from. And when the player got to Dusk's boss fight, they just couldn't beat it. So they installed a faulty, unstable mod that would grant them some sort of power-up or unfair advantage against Dusk and win the game. But in doing so, it crashed the game, and Dusk and Warwick were the only survivors. This would solve the problem with the theory in an instant, and it would also explain why the game world exploded into these red, glitchy pixels that kind of remind me of error code messages or Minecraft/Gmod pink glitch. You know what I mean? This also explains why the game worlds delete themselves whenever other game characters are there when the win condition is met. It's because foreign code, Farcade and or syntax, are giving cheat codes and unfair advantages to the hero, which causes the game to crash, the same way it did for Dusk and Warwick. Now, you might still be hesitant in believing that there's even a player, since a title screen alone doesn't inherently prove that. I mean, for all we know, it could just be there because video games have them. But my brother, the one editing this video, say hi to Ethan, everybody, hi! When searching for anything we could use for this theory, and found the original Gameoverse series from 2009. Because if you didn't know, the pilot on the Glitch channel is meant to be a reboot. And found something interesting. In the original concept of the miniseries, Gobbles and Flappers were summoned by this giant #1 character, who had some sort of power over the Gameoverse, and sent them to go and defeat Klezdoom. After a little adventure, they ended up finding out that the villain wasn't actually a villain at all. He was actually, in fact, being led by this giant Zero guy into believing that Gobbles and Flappers, oh, and also this radical dork, were trying to assassinate him. But more importantly, they spoke of a higher power that they worked for to entertain with chaos.
For without chaos, the Gameoverse would cease to exist.
You are just tools of entertainment for a higher power.
A power we must always keep entertained.
And what is a higher power in a video game world? A player. Now, this is old material dating back to the year I was literally born? Holy shit. But considering elements of those videos made their way into the trailer and pilot, I wouldn't be surprised if more stuff from those old videos, like plot lines or jokes, were reimagined into the series later down the line. And heck, the two who are helping out the higher being are a 1 and a 0. Binary code. Coincidence? I think not! Wait, did I do it? I did it! I proved that the Gameoverse doesn't try to torture the main characters! Hooray! Theory over! Unless it wasn't an accident. I mean, after the first time this happened and the player found a character from a different game in the game they were playing, wouldn't they do something about it? And just counting all of the members of Syntax, that's probably half a dozen different worlds that have crashed. Why would the player keep playing this?
You are just tools of entertainment for a higher power.
A power we must always keep entertained.
No. Surely not. It can't be. Is the player...
For without chaos, the Gameoverse would cease to exist.
No. The whole reason I was doing this was to prove it wasn't... No!
The rules of the Gameoverse are cruel and unfair. You are just tools of entertainment for a higher power.
You lose. Hero wins, you lose.
Holy shit! And that is controller theory. Thank you very much. Oh, and I also have irrefutable proof that photo misinformation will get married at the end of the series. Okay, bye!